So a few months ago, I found out that nerdcore is a thing. And don't get me wrong, I knew about Nate Wants to Battle, and I've been writing songs like that for a couple of years now. But it wasn't until recently when I discovered artists like Nerd Out, Hala, CG, Sailor You Are Of, and all the rest of them. And one thing I noticed is that they all had songs for Avatar: The Last Airbender. And since I had just gotten into the whole thing, I figured I wanted to write one too. But here's the thing, I wanted it to stick out. Everybody and their little brown dog has done a Zuko song, and I wanted to do something that hadn't been done before. And since I was right in the middle of the rise of Kyoshi, I figured, you know what, I'm going to do one about her. Hi everybody, this is VisitJoan, and I'm going to take you line by line through Beautiful War. Now, I feel obligated to tell you that not everybody watching this video is going to be in the fandom, and that's because I don't really put specifics in my songs. I just don't like that. It's a personal preference of mine. But I write them in a way so that everyone can enjoy them. I mean, yeah, people in the fandom are going to get all the little details and understand fully what's going on, but I write them so that everybody can enjoy it too. And there's also probably going to be some family members and friends who also have just no idea what I'm talking about. So I'm going to have to, explain some things here. So now, Kyoshi has a reputation in the fandom for, how do I say this without triggering myself? Extreme violence. And don't get me wrong, the memes are hilarious. I laugh my butt off every time, but that's not really an accurate representation of her at all. And that's something I really just wanted to get away from in this song. I was trying to figure out what it was going to be about, and I figured I'd know when I get to it. And sure enough, I got to a part in The Shadow of Kyoshi where I read it and I said, that's it. That's what this song's going to be about. So while I'm going to try to keep spoilers to a minimum, it's needless to say that there are going to be spoilers for the Kyoshi novels. So if you're in the fandom and you have not read these books yet, well, first of all, what are you doing with your life? And second of all, you're probably not going to get a full understanding of what's going on here. So you have been warned. Beautiful War was a phrase that actually has been in my head for a while. It first came up about last summer when I was thinking of what I could possibly title my third album, but I kind of put it to the side because I hadn't even started thinking about that album yet. And it came back to me when I was thinking about what the heck I was gonna, title this song, and I figured it was perfect. Now, War obviously is Kyoshi's war within herself. She is struggling to see herself as worthy of being the Avatar. But beautiful actually has a double meaning, and we'll get to the other meaning in a second. But the one I originally had in mind is kind of like a metaphor for a diamond in the rough. And diamonds, as you know, undergo a lot of stress and pressure, and because of that, become something beautiful. And that's exactly what Kyoshi goes through in her journey. But she becomes the person we know and love, and that's why I figured that this was perfect for the song. Also, where do diamonds form? Within the earth. Yeah, you didn't think this was going to get that deep, did you? I need to stop. Now, there are a couple of critical points in the song that you really need to get right, and one of them is, of course, the opening lines. And this is important because it's the first thing your audience is ever going to hear. You want to make sure that they have a reason to keep listening. So I opened the song with, "Hasn't the world already hurt me enough?" And this actually came from a tweet that was by Ashley Boone Plays, I believe it was. And I don't remember exactly what I was tweeting about, but I just randomly put on Twitter, "Sometimes the world just wants to watch decent people burn," or something like that. I don't remember exactly what was going on. But Ashley replied saying, "Honestly, sometimes I just wonder how everything that already goes on in the world is not already enough." And I'm sitting there like, oh my goodness, this is perfect for a song. And it ended up being the opening line of Beautiful War. And what this does is it tells the story, but in a way that keeps the listeners guessing. It's not the whole scene here, and that's why they want to keep listening. And it's followed by, "I've come so far, yet lost so much." And so now we get the bigger picture. We know exactly what's going on now. Kyoshi was born into crime and poverty. Her parents abandoned her. She spent some time on the street. She was pretty much raised by a disgraced monk who did get her a job as a servant, and now she's arguably one of the most important people in the world. She's come a long way from where she started, but along the way, she's seen some of the people she cares most about get hurt, and her life basically thrown apart in the process. And then we have, "And now I'm just waiting for a sign." So she's at the point where the path has pretty much ended. She's not really sure which way to go, and she's waiting for something to kind of guide her, and it's not coming. I'm not even sure how to do this at all. That's pretty straightforward, but now I think it's a good time to kind of go over what being the Avatar entails. First of all, it's a lifelong position from birth. So A person doesn't choose to be the avatar, they are chosen. They are born into that role. And when you think of the avatar, the first thing that comes to mind is being able to bend all 4 elements. And yeah, that's part of the job, but it's not the whole thing. The primary job of the avatar is to bring and maintain peace and balance to the world. And given that the avatar world is a lot like ours, well, those are some pretty big shoes to fill. Oh my god, I can't believe I just did that. Can we cut that from the video? The next line is, I don't think that I've ever felt so small. And I know you guys are all wondering, Joan, are you crazy? And while you're correct, there's a method to my madness here. I did choose that word for a reason, and that's because it has a double meaning. In context, to feel small would be feeling unworthy. However, that's not, as we all know, that's not the first definition that comes to mind when we think of the word small. The first definition would be little or tiny, and as anyone in the fandom knows, Kyoshi's not. She's about 7 feet tall, I want to say. So for somebody like that to say that they feel small, that adds such a huge impact on things. Basically what I'm doing here is I'm using one definition of the word as a crazy opposite thing to further empower the contextual definition of the word. And I was looking for words that rhyme with all, and I know a song doesn't have to rhyme, but for me personally, it just sounds really weird if it doesn't at least sound like it rhymes, and so I came across the word small, and I was just laughing like, oh my goodness, that's not gonna happen. Wait a minute, I can work with this. Side note, I'm 4'11", so that's gonna be really fun when we do the video. Now that another's destiny is mine. And this is one of the lines that I knew from the very beginning was gonna be in the song, and this is where things get interesting, because what's supposed to happen is that the avatar is identified from a very young age, but in typical fashion, it doesn't exactly go to plan. You see, her parents moved her around a lot, and so they weren't actually able to find her, and they actually ended up thinking that somebody else was the avatar. So she's seen this other person who she feels would have been a much better fit for the role take on the responsibilities of being the avatar. She knows how much that entails, and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, by the way, it's not him, it's you. But no pressure. Speaking of pressure, we're now going into the pre-chorus, and I decided to go with a shorter verse and a longer pre-chorus because I was listening to Team by Nerd Out, and that's the structure that they used with that song, and it just felt like it really flowed, like it was one big verse, and that's what I kind of wanted to go with here. So the pre-chorus starts with, everyone's watching, trying to find my faults. Now, again, this has a double meaning. On the surface, it means everybody's watching Kyoshi, just waiting for her to screw up. But when you look at the word fault in a different context, and now is going to be the time where I tell you that even though the avatar can bend all 4 elements, that each one actually has a native element, and Kyoshi's is earth. So when we take a look at the word fault in a geological sense, a fault line is basically a crack within the earth. And when we apply that definition, it now means everybody is watching her and trying to find a place where they can break her and kind of bend her and manipulate her to do what they want her to do. Then comes, I don't have the guidance to get the best results. And because of the way she was identified, or not identified, she didn't really exactly have any preparation at all. Normally, like I said, they would identify the avatar at a young age, and they let them know when they turned 16. And between that time, they'd be kind of just preparing them to take on that role. And I'm going to assume here that probably includes foreign relations, like how to conduct yourself in each of the nations. And of course, she didn't have any of that training. There's a part in The Shadow of Kyoshi where she goes to the Fire Nation, which has really complex social customs, and she really just has difficulty navigating them because she's literally never been exposed to them at all. Although, if we're being fair, they did kind of just toss her in the deep end with barely an explanation, and her girlfriend uses a life raft. Yes, you did hear that correctly. Suck it, homophobes! I can't let my guard down to protect what's at stake. So like I said before, Kyoshi has seen some of the people she cares most about get hurt. And so she feels like she constantly has to be in this state of readiness, being prepared to fight in order to protect those that she cares about. And that's not all that healthy. And each one of these things is piling on top of her till she's at her breaking point. And that is where the last line of the pre-chorus comes in, and I'm just about to break. So now we're at the refrain, and I'm going to use the word refrain here because hook sounds like that makes me think of the beginning of the song, And chorus, well, that just makes me feel like I'm throwing up in my mouth. So I'm going to use the word refrain. And this is another key element of the song because this is the part that everyone's going to remember. When you think of Beautiful War, this is the part of the song you're going to think of. And so it's really important to get it right. So the refrain starts off with, "What am I supposed to do?" which is fairly obvious. And again, this kind of does the same thing that the opening line was, but it's followed with, "I'm not the stuff of legends." And I did choose that word for a reason because that is the exact word that the co-creator of the franchise uses in the foreword of the book, and I have it right here. It says, and this is a direct quote, "Readers familiar with the original Nickelodeon series might recall that Avatar Kyoshi was a legend, even among the impressive pantheon of avatars." So given that, having her say, "I'm not the stuff of legends," really just drives the point of the song, that she's really feeling unworthy of this role. Is there a way to heal this pain and not lose myself even more? So again, healing this pain is kind of like a metaphor for bringing peace to the world because, as I'm pretty sure we all know, any conflict in the world does bring pain and suffering to the people that, like aren't directly involved, aren't the cause of it, but are kind of like in the way of what is going on. And so that's so healing the pain would be, bringing peace. But she's asking if there's a way that she can do this, if she can do her job without losing herself. And that comes from another point in The Shadow of Kyoshi. I'm not going to go into specifics again because spoilers, but there's a point where she takes things too far and Kurik, of all people, I know, right, actually has to step in and say, "This isn't who you are." And she snaps out of it, realizes what she's done, and makes things right. So, and this is a reoccurring pattern of hers. So she's questioning the whole thing. Can I actually do this job? And is there a way to bring peace to the world without becoming someone I'm not? I'm sick of going the wrong way, which is her realizing that she's messed up. She knows that this isn't necessarily the way to go, but she's not really sure what else she can do and be effective at the same time. And I can't reach the answers. So one of the things that the Avatar is able to do is they're able to contact and get advice from every avatar that came before them. And you can tell by that word that I wasn't able to read for a second there, even among the impressive, oh God, what word is that? That there are a lot of them. But Kyoshi finds herself having trouble even contacting them. I mean, even when one of them tries to contact her, it kind of just ends in disaster. And so she wants those answers. She's trying to figure out if there's a way that she can effectively bring peace to the world, and she can't even ask the avatars that came before her. I don't know how I can face what tomorrow has in store. She does feel guilty about what she's done, and she's afraid of facing the consequences of her actions because she knows that they're not the best actions she could have taken. And then we have In This Beautiful War. And like I said before, beautiful is kind of like a metaphor for a diamond in the rough. But from Kyoshi's perspective, this is her realizing that not everything in her personal journey is pain and suffering. It's not all just a fight within herself. There are beautiful parts to it as well. Now, the second verse is probably my favorite part of the song just because things have already been established and there's kind of a flow between the refrain and the second verse. But anyway, this part of the song was, I did kind of go back and forth about which half of the second verse I did want to start first, but I still kind of do a little bit, like, should I have done this? Like, no, but I did finally start with, "I cover the wounds that remain from the storm." So basically, storm is a metaphor for a battle. It's part of her job, it's inevitable that she's gonna be in a fight somehow. And of course, you don't come out of a fight unscathed. And I feel like storm is the perfect word for that, just because of the chaotic nature of a storm. You don't really know what's going to happen. Everything is just on edge and things like that, and that kind of perfectly describes a fight or a battle. Now, again, word choice here. I didn't want to use the word scars because that's kind of synonymous with other characters in the franchise, but I feel like wounds kind of fits better here because we're not just talking about literal battle scars, which is half the reason why she covers her face in makeup, to cover those. But there are, like scars from the battle that go deeper in that, because I feel like it sounds like scars are on the surface and wounds kind of are a little bit deeper when you think about that. And her wounds are deeper. They're not just physical wounds. They're psychological too, because like I said, she's seeing people she cares about get hurt, and she wants to prevent that as much as possible. And it's probably something she always is going to carry around with her. And that leads into the next line, "and put up a front to weather the scorn." Now, that goes into the other half of the reason. The other half of the reason she wears makeup is because she kind of wants to hide the fact that she has absolutely no idea what she's doing. And the other half is because, well, she kind of has a bad reputation, probably had something to do with the fact that the person they thought was the Avatar was just beloved, and now it's her, and given that she feels like she's not up to the role, it's kind of like, I'm sorry that you're stuck with me. But she kind of just puts on a face and pretends to deal with it, even though she constantly has people kind of criticizing her behind her back, and there's points where they're like, okay, yeah, you're the Avatar, and they're kind of just, like, condescending, like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this, like, you know, and she kind of picks up on that, only to emerge covered in shame. So even though she gives off the vibe of being confident, and she knows what she's doing, and a force to be reckoned with, and she is, but deep down, she feels guilty about what she's done, and rightfully so. And then that moves into, I'm trying my best, but I still get it wrong. Pretty self-explanatory there. Everything that I do just comes off too strong. So while fulfilling her duties, she has good intentions, but the way she carries them out, she knows that it's, you know, it goes too far, and she doesn't even have that intention. It's just like a spur of the moment type of thing, but it's something that she knows she needs to work on, but she feels like maybe she can't, and she's stuck in this kind of like endless cycle. But I only have myself to blame. So she knows that it's nobody else's fault. This is all her own doing, and she's kind of taking responsibility for her mistakes. And now we're at the second pre-chorus, which starts, everyone's talking and they all have their doubts. And again, that has to do with the fact that she does not have a good reputation. They're all kind of whispering and spreading rumors. I can't shake the nightmares that I seem to bring about. Now, this line did cause me some problems. I was thinking about, do I really want the word shake in there? It kind of is more of a modern definition, and it's not really the aesthetic of the whole thing. But I figured, you know what, leave it in, because again, shake, earthquake, you know, and let me tell you this, earth is the hardest element to add any literary flair to. There's no, you can't do puns, but you shouldn't do those in the song anyway, because those are kind of cheesy. And there's hardly any metaphors, so I really had to kind of get creative here. But when I thought about that, I'm like, you know what, that'll work, I'm gonna stick with it. That and by the time I realized this problem, it had already been released, so I was kind of stuck with it. But the nightmares, they're not only her nightmares, you know, because of some of the things that she's ended up doing has brought nightmares for her, but also nightmares for other people. There is one part where she's trying to help somebody and they end up being afraid of her. It's all been so sudden, shattering reality. And I know this sounds really weird to put here, but it kind of fits with the line that it's just so sudden and stuff like that. But then everything kind of goes back to how she didn't even think she even had this role. And all of a sudden, here it is. She's got like the most important job in the world, and it changed everything. You know, she had a life that she was comfortable with. She wanted to protect it at all costs. And, well, that's not how things worked out. And so it basically took the life that she was comfortable with and wanted to stay in and just tore it apart. And that further adds into the ending of the second pre-chorus. I'm not sure why it's me. Like, because I said, again, you do not choose to be the Avatar. You were born into it. So Kyoshi didn't have a choice here. She has that role. And so she's wondering why. Why was I the one that was chosen? Why is it me? When there are so many other people that could have done it better. And then we go into the refrain again. Then we hit the bridge. And this starts by saying, I can't afford another failure, but that's all I seem to find. And I don't really think I need to explain that. Just like it will take too long to do what is right. So she kind of knows the right thing to do and what she should be doing, but the problem is that it's not all that effective. It would take a really long time, and she's looking for results right now, and that's what she's kind of struggling with. And then probably comes the most important part of the bridge. I know peace can't be found in the fray, but will it be there if my heart leads the way? So she knows that violence isn't necessarily the answer. That's not going to bring peace to herself if she handles things in a violent way. However, her job and what she's trying to do is not to bring peace to herself, it's to bring peace to the world. And so she's asking herself here, if I don't take care of things in a permanent fashion, and I think you all know what I mean here, will there be peace in the world? And that is the question that every avatar has had to deal with at some point. And also, so then we have kind of like a little, I don't even know what it is, but this is the part where things slow down and we repeat, what am I supposed to do? And then I'm not the stuff of legends twice. And that kind of represents that she is at her low and she's hit rock bottom. And then we have the final refrain. And while I could have doubled up on the refrain, I decided not to do that here because it just didn't feel right with this song. So instead, I actually changed the lyrics. So what am I supposed to do becomes, I may not know what to do. And that's followed by, but I'll be the stuff of legends. So here she is coming to accept her role as the avatar. And I know I'll heal this pain and not lose myself even more. I may have gone the wrong way, but I'll reach for the answers. And I'm no longer afraid of what tomorrow has in store in this beautiful war. This is her coming to terms with her role. She is accepting the fact that she is the avatar. And she knows that she has a long way to go, but now she is determined to get there. She still has to figure out how exactly she's going to do this, but she still knows that she'll get there. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's very small, but she can see it. And the song wraps up by repeating those two lines, I may have gone the wrong way, but I'll reach for the answers, followed by, I'll be my own miracle, which is taken directly from the shadow of Kyoshi, and end this beautiful war. So that's a stronger affirmation on her part that she is now confident she will figure out how to do things right. Now this is the part where I would say, I hope you enjoyed the song as much as I enjoyed writing it, but I didn't always enjoy writing it. This song was just really difficult to write. There were times when words were frustrating me and I really just wanted to pull my hair out. And that's probably because I started writing this in the middle of a Mercury retrograde. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. I had to actually go back to the book several times, and I had the whole thing written, and I wasn't completely happy with it. And of course, if I'm not 100% happy with it, it's not done. So I put it to the side, waited for Mercury to go direct, binged the entire Last Airbender series again, and then went back and finished it. So there was a lot of stress, but like Kyoshi herself, it ended up being something beautiful. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you left a like, and don't forget to share this with your avatar-loving friends, because trust me, they will enjoy it. Also, if you haven't subscribed, I would strongly recommend doing so, and don't forget to hit that notification bell, so when the produced version or other versions of the song come out, you will be the first to know. But I'm gonna get up out of here now. Bye, everybody!